Hello there. I'm super excited about this tutorial today. I get to go to a baby shower in a couple weeks and for someone at church. And I love baby showers. Usually I make bibs and burp cloths and maybe baby hats or a ribbon tag baby blanket, but I've made so many of those over the years that I wanted to find something new. So I went on to Pinterest and I was just looking for baby toy ideas and I found the coolest. I saw several like sensory baby toys and I decided to make this sensory baby block. It has really fun things on every edge and it was super fun to put together. So I decided to make a tutorial for you. This was a super easy project. I made it with everything that I already had on hand except for these little wooden rings. I got these rings at Hobby Lobby. They're not in the wood section like you would imagine they would be. They were by the leather crafting stuff, weirdly. So if you go to Hobby Lobby and look for these, that's where they are. But you can probably, I'm sure, order them on Amazon too. I'll try to find a link for some. Just little teething rings. And then everything else was just stuff I already had. And it was just so fun to make. So now I'm going to make a girly one and I'll just keep it on hand or throw it in my Etsy shop or something. But if you want to go ahead and grab a printable version of this tutorial, you can do that in my shop, and I'll put a link to that below. It's just more of a convenient way to print it out and refer back to it so you don't have to watch the video again and again unless you really want to see my face. So let's get started, and I'm going to tell you what you need and how to make this fun sensory baby toy. It's so fun. I kept passing it around to my family members and nobody could stop fidgeting with it. My 16-year-old daughter wants one to play with and fidget with, and I just think it's so fun. It's really easy. All you need is 6 scraps of fabric, and you need to cut them in a 5-inch square each one. So for these kinds of things, when I'm not cutting like multiple squares of the same fabric, I like to just make a cardboard template. So if ever something I buy comes with a nice piece of cardboard, I stick it in my sewing desk so I can use it later as a template. And I like it because my rotary cutter can go around it just as if it were a ruler. And I don't have to like fold up the fabric and make a straight edge and, go through all that just for one little block. Okay, so I have cut out 5 squares already. And I also cut out 5 pieces of interfacing. I'm going to interface the back of all of them except for this denim. If you have thick fabrics, they don't need interfaced. But some of mine, like this one, was really thin. And this was a gauze, so I interfaced everything except the denim. So just cut your interfacing to 5 inches also and iron it to the back. This is just a very lightweight knit interfacing. You can use whatever lightweight interfacing you have. Wouldn't want it to be too thick because you want the baby to be able to, play with it, squish it. So when you iron lightweight interfacing onto lightweight fabrics though, do it from the front. So put the sticky side up, layer your fabric on top, wrong side down, and press from the front this way. Otherwise, it can kind of get stuck to your iron if you try to do it this way. Okay, so I already interfaced my squares. Now I'm going to lay them out in the design I want. So if you've ever made like a cube for any reason, then it needs to look like this. You're going to make like a T shape or an upside down T shape, like so. Make sure that whole thing is on my screen. My messy desk. Okay. Then we're going to start attaching ribbons and trims. You want to try to make sure that there is at least one in every seam. So you kind of have to understand how it goes together. Like this seam will be here. This seam will actually be here. And this seam will be here. This seam will meet this seam. So if you can sort of visualize how it goes together, of course, there's room for mistakes. It's okay. It's okay if one ends up with none, and it's okay if one ends up with 2 pieces of trim or ribbon. Totally fine. I also already picked out some trims and ribbons that I want to use. I have a little bit more of this. I have this drawstring from a skirt. I have this piece of eyelet. I have some cotton lace, this cool twill tape. If you do not already have quite a stash of this kind of stuff like I do, it's okay. You can harvest things from what you already have. You can make strips of fabric to be ribbons, or you can go like, I know both Joann's and Hobby Lobby, or not Joann's, but Michael's, like you can get a big bundle of 2-yard scraps of ribbon at Michael's, usually in a color scheme for I think like, well, when they're on sale, they're only $5. And they come with a ton. And then Hobby Lobby, most of the Hobby Lobbies, they wrap up ribbon scraps in baggies and sell them for a few dollars. So I used to really stock my stash that way when I was teaching. So those are some good options. Otherwise, you can use shoelaces, drawstrings, anything like that. So I like to put 2 of these little wooden rings on there. And now I'm just going to start placing my ribbons. If you have a wired ribbon, that's okay. You can just take out the wires. It's important not to put anything on there that could be a choke hazard for the baby. So the thing that I was thinking mostly that you don't want to overlook is not to use ball fringe, because those little balls do come off occasionally. Okay, so I think I'm going to stick this one up here. First, I'm going to arrange everything and pin it all on, and then I'll stitch them down before I put my block together. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, since I have a ribbon in every seam, or something in every seam, I'm going to go just stitch them on. Just inside my seam allowance, which will be a 1/4 inch, so just inside of a 1/4 inch, I'm just going to stitch around them all so they stay in place. Okay, which way did this go? I should have paid attention. This way. Now I can just trim my ribbons and things flush so that this one will be ready to go. So this one I left loose, this one I'll stitch down, this one I'll probably stitch down. Some of them are looped, some of them are looped this way. You can do so many different things with your ribbons and trims, so keep that in mind when you're designing. And now we're going to sew the box together. Okay, so if you have never sewn corners that are already sewn into corners, if that makes any sense before, this is going to be the easiest way to do it. So first let's stitch this center trio together. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this right sides together, but we're not going to go all the way from edge to edge. Since our seam allowance is a 1/4 inch, we're going to start and stop a 1/4 inch inside of the seam line. I mean inside of the raw edge. So we're going to stitch from here to, if you need to use a ruler, you can. I'm going to eyeball it. To here, and you're going to stop exactly there and back stitch. Okay, I don't know if you can see that very well. So I left open a 1/4 inch on either side and made sure I back stitch so it doesn't come apart. Okay, so let's sew this other one on in the same manner. Okay, so these 3 are now sewn together. Now I'm going to put this one on, flip it over this way. You can see that now I don't want to sew past these seams that I've already sewn. And I've made it easy on myself by not stitching all the way to the edge. So again, I'm going to put my pin exactly where I intend to start sewing, which is exactly where my other seam line ended. Right there. And then the same over here on this side. So my raw edges do match up if I push this one out of the way. Make sure I go just that far and no further. Okay, see that? I'm not going to have any puckered corners. Okay, let's finish sewing the T-shape together. Once again, I like to place my pins right where I'm going to start sewing, right on the edge of this last seam I made. And when I'm stopping my seam, I do not remove my pin until my needle is right up on it. I don't hit it, don't worry. But once my needle hits this spot, then I take my pin out and backstitch. Okay, there's that one. So far so good. I don't have any puckers or overlaps. Last piece for this part. So now my T is stitched together and we need to form it into a box. We'll start here. We're going to sew this seam, and since I stopped a 1/4 inch short, I can just get this one out of the way by folding it in a triangular shape on this side. And I can start a 1/4 inch from this edge. And I can stop right where my previous stitches stopped. Super easy in that exact spot. So see my perfect corner there with no puckers over here. Okay, now I'll do this side. Same thing. Pull this out so it doesn't get stuck under my presser foot. I will start exactly where my last stitches ended and end a 1/4 inch from this edge. Okay, now I'm going to continue forming my box in this way. So this one next. But on the last seam, I'm going to leave an opening for turning and stuffing. So you sew this one and the next one, and then I'll show you what I mean. So this one, since this is still loose, I want to match this up. I don't want it to stop here because then I'll have no seam allowance here. I want it to stop over here. So this square matches up with that square. If I get the yellow one out of the way, I'm going to stop stitching right there. I'm going to start stitching right here in the corner. Okay, let me do this edge next. Oh, I have 2 more after this. Thought it was almost there. So many more seams than I thought there was. Now I have 2 left. So this one is next. Okay. Oh my gosh, look, I have another one I missed. So when I thought I had 2 seams left, I actually had 4 or 5. Okay, now finally the last seam. I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to leave a gap about like this big. Or turning and stuffing. The reason you don't just want to leave this whole edge open is because then you're going to end up hand stitching these corners, and it's probably going to be tricky. It's just much easier if you do it now, and you stitch a little bit here, back stitch, and then stitch a little bit here and back stitch. All right, I hope your cube is going well so far. I know there's a little bit of spatial intelligence involved, but I think once you understand how it's supposed to go together, then you'll avoid puckered corners. Also, it's okay if you have to take something out and redo. Okay, so now I'm just going to flip it right side out. You'll notice I did not press the seams. On the first one I made, I did press the first few seams open, and then at the end I realized it made no difference at all in how it looked. So I did not bother with that. Plus, once it starts to look like a box, you can't really press the seams anyway. I did press my fabrics nice and neat before I cut them so that they would all be a uniform size. That is important. Okay, get the rings out first. Okay, looks great. All right, get my trusty chopstick and poke my corners out so they look nice and neat. Now I'm going to stuff it. My rule for stuffing is usually once you think it's stuffed, just put a little bit more in. And then that's usually perfect. Okay, I think that's good. Yeah, looks good. Now all we need to do is hand stitch our opening closed. So finger press under 1/4 inch on these edges. Place a pin. Thread a needle. I like to start the wrong way so that it's easier to stick my tail inside. And I'm just going to make very small stitches and bury the tail. Okay, look how fun! Now I have a matching pair. One boyish, one girly. I guess this could be pretty gender neutral. I hope you all enjoy this. If you make some, I'd love to hear about it. You can head over to my Etsy shop in the comments. I'll put the link in the description below, and get the printable version just so you don't have to come back to the video every time. And I hope you'll show me if you make some. And I'll see y'all soon. Bye.